Welcome to Chinese History and Mythology.
Hello friends, welcome back. Welcome back to Chinese History and Mythology. Friends, let us continue my story. Records of the eastern Zhou states, Buwei traveled a long way with Prince Yiren and finally made it back to Xianyang. Buwei had already found out something important. Lady Huayang was from Chu, so he told Yiren to put on Chu-style clothes before going to see his father and mother. When Yiren met Lord Anguo and Lady Huayang, he cried and said, "Your unfilial son has been away for many years and has failed to serve his parents. I beg father and mother to forgive me." He stood up, bowed, and said, "You, sir, are truly a great man. I will return at once and report this to my ruler. I will never again speak of honoring Qin as emperor." When the king of Qin heard of this, he sighed and said, "There are indeed worthy men in Hendan. It cannot be treated lightly." So he withdrew his troops and stationed them by the Fen River. But even though Qin had pulled back for the moment, the danger was not over. Lord Pingyuan sent a letter to Lord Xinling Wei Wuji, blaming him. "The reason I relied on Wei was because I valued your sense of honor and righteousness. Now Hendan is in mortal danger. Can you truly forget your own elder sister?" Lord Xinling asked the king of Wei again and again to send troops, but the king refused every time. So Lord Xinling made up his mind. He would take more than 1,000 retainers and go to Zhou to die there if necessary. As he passed Yamen Gate, he went to bid farewell to Husheng. Husheng said coldly, "Do your best, my lord. I am too old to follow you." Lord Xinling went on for more than 10 li, but the more he thought about it, the more uneasy he became. "I have always treated Husheng well. Why did he not say a single word to see me off?" So he turned back and went to ask him. Husheng smiled and said, "I knew my lord would return." Then he dismissed the others and quietly said, "I have heard that Lady Ruji is deeply favored by the king. Is that true? Back then it was my lord who avenged the murder of her father. Now the military tally is kept in the king's bedchamber. Only Ruji can steal it. If my lord gets the tally and seizes Jinbai's army, that will be an achievement worthy of the 5 hegemons." Lord Xinling suddenly understood. He went to ask Ruji for help, and Ruji indeed stole the tally for him. Husheng added, "Jinbai is an old general. If he refuses to believe the tally, I have a retainer named Zhu Hai. He is a man of tremendous strength. Let him go with you." After saying this, Hao Sheng suddenly drew his sword and killed himself, using his own death to send Lord Xinling on his way. Lord Xinling was heartbroken. He took Zhu Hai with him and rushed toward Yi. When they met Jinbai, Lord Xinling showed him the tally. Jinbai hesitated and said, "I must report this to the king of Wei and verify it." Before he could finish, Zhu Hai pulled out an iron hammer weighing 40 jin and smashed it down on Jinbai's head. His brains burst out on the spot. Lord Xinling then took over the army, selected 80,000 elite soldiers, and marched straight for Hendan. The army of Wei and the army of Zhou attacked together from inside and outside and dealt Qin a crushing defeat. The Qin general Zheng Anping surrendered to Wei, and Wang He withdrew. The king of Zhou personally came out to welcome Lord Xinling and wanted to reward him with 5 cities. Lord Xinling answered humbly, "I have committed an offense against Wei and performed no service for Zhou." He accepted only a residence at Gao. Because he had offended the king of Wei, he did not dare return home, so he stayed on in Zhou. The king of Zhou wanted to reward Lu Zhonglian generously as well, but Lu Zhonglian firmly refused. He said, "Rather than enjoy wealth and rank by bending myself before others, I would rather remain poor and lowly and keep my freedom." After saying this, he left like the drifting wind. While Lord Xinling was in Zhou, he heard of 2 hidden worthies. One was Mao Gong, who mixed with gamblers. The other was Zhu Gong, who lived among sellers of drinks. Lord Xinling put on plain clothes and went to visit them. When Lord Pingyuan heard of this, he said to his wife, "Your younger brother is associating with people from the lowest ranks. This damages his reputation." His wife passed these words on to Lord Xinling. Lord Xinling became angry and said, "I thought Lord Pingyuan was truly a worthy man, and that is why I saved Zhou. But now I see that he only values grand talk and does not seek out men of true worth. Back in Wei, I had already heard of the reputations of Mao Gong and Zhu Gong. I would count it an honor just to hold the whip for them. Yet Lord Pingyuan is ashamed of this. How can that be called loving worthy men? I cannot remain here any longer." He then began packing to leave. Lord Pingyuan was shocked. He removed his cap, bowed his head, and apologized, saying, There are two worthy men in Zhou. Lord Qinling knows them, yet I did not. I fall far short of Lord Qinling. Only then did Lord Qinling agree to remain. Back in Wei, the king learned that the military tally had been stolen and flew into a rage. He wanted to arrest the family members of Lord Qinling. Ruji knelt down and pleaded, "This is my crime. It was only because Lord Qinling avenged my father's murder, and I was grateful for his great kindness that I stole the tally to save Zhou. Zhou and Wei are like members of one household. By risking himself to rescue Zhou, my lord preserved your majesty's good name. If you seize his family and kill his retainers, then if he is defeated, he will willingly accept punishment. But if he is victorious, how will your majesty deal with that?" The king's anger cooled somewhat. He demoted Ruji to the cold palace, but spared her life. Later, when he heard that Lord Qinling had won a great victory, the king of Wei forgave his crime, but still would not allow him to come home. He only sent his salary and allowances to his family. Now in Qin, King Zhaoxiang returned after the defeat. Since Zhang Anping had surrendered to Wei, and since Zhang Anping had originally been recommended by Chancellor Fan Sui, Qin law required shared punishment for recommending the wrong man. Fan Sui knew he could not escape responsibility, so he could only wait quietly for the king of Qin to decide his fate. After Zhang Anping surrendered to the state of Wei, Lord Ying, Fan Sui, who had recommended him, knew very well that according to Qin law he could hardly escape punishment. So he stayed quietly at home and waited for the king of Qin to pass judgment. But to his surprise, the king of Qin said, "Appointing Zhang Anping was originally my own decision. It has nothing to do with the chancellor." He even ordered that anyone who dared to discuss the matter would be executed. Fan Sui was deeply moved and grateful. He then suggested that the king of Qin destroy the Zhou dynasty and proclaim himself emperor. At that time, a debater from Yan named Kaize came to Xianyang. He openly declared that he intended to replace Fan Sui as prime minister. Fan Sui was not pleased and summoned him for a meeting. When Kaize arrived, he did not kneel. Instead, he spoke directly. "Have you heard of Xianyang, Wuqi, and Wenzhang? Their achievements were unmatched, yet in the end they all met tragic deaths. Your achievements are already great. The king of Qin trusts you, but not as deeply as Duke Shao trusted Xianyang. If you do not withdraw while you still can, your ending may be even worse than theirs." Fan Sui asked, "Then what should I do?" Kaize replied, "Return your seal of office and recommend a worthy man. In this way you can protect your life and also win a good name. Why would you not do such a thing? The sun declines after reaching its highest point, and the moon begins to wane once it is full. Why not choose this moment to return your seal and recommend a capable and wise person to the king? If the person you recommend proves to be loyal and virtuous, then the king will value the one who recommended him even more. For you, in name you give up honor, but in reality you lay down the heavy burden on your shoulders. Then you may enjoy life among mountains and rivers, live as long as the pine and cypress, and allow your descendants to inherit the title of Lord Ying." Fan Sui was completely convinced by these words. He immediately treated Kaize as an honored guest. The next day he recommended Kaize to the king of Qin and claimed illness as an excuse to resign from the position of prime minister. Later he lived out his life peacefully in his fief. The king of Qin then appointed Kaize as prime minister and granted him the title Lord Yangqing. Now let us turn to the Zhou dynasty. When King Nan of Zhou heard that Qin planned to open the route through the three rivers and attack Zhou, he tried to unite Chu, Yan, and 3 other states to attack Qin together. However, each state had its own plans. In the end, only Yan and Chu actually sent troops, and even they hesitated and did not move forward. King Nan of Zhou had no money to support a war. He had to borrow money from wealthy people and wrote contracts promising to repay the loans with interest after victory. But the allied army soon broke apart, and the king returned without success. The creditors came to demand payment every day. King Nan had no way to repay them, so he hid himself on a high platform. This is the origin of the expression, the terrace for avoiding debts. Qin took advantage of the situation and attacked western Zhou. King Nan had no choice but to surrender. He presented a map and offered 36 cities to Qin. Not long afterward, King Nan died of illness. Qin then abolished the royal title of the Zhou dynasty and removed the 9 tripods. Legend says that one of the tripods flew into the Sai River. When people tried to retrieve it, they saw a great dragon glaring fiercely beneath the water, and from that moment the tripod disappeared. Later Buwei destroyed eastern Zhou as well. With this, The Zhou dynasty that had ruled for 800 years finally came to an end. After King Xianyang of Qin died, King Zhou Wen ascended the throne, but only 3 days later he suddenly died. Some people suspected that Buwei had secretly poisoned him in order to allow Chu, whom he supported, to become king as soon as possible. Chu then ascended the throne and became King Xianyang of Qin. He honored Lady Huayang as Queen Dowager, made Zhao Ji his queen, and named his son Zhao Zhang as crown prince. Because of his role in placing the king on the throne, Buwei was appointed prime minister. He was given the title Lord Wen Qin and granted a fief of 100,000 households. Like the famous 4 lords of the warring states, he also kept 3,000 retainers, and his reputation grew even greater. Qin then took advantage of its strength and attacked Wei. Wei soon fell into great danger. Ruji said to the king of Wei, "Lord Xinling is famous throughout the world and can gain the support of the other states. If your majesty humbly invites him back and forms an alliance against Qin, Qin will not dare underestimate Wei." The king of Wei had no choice but to send Yan to Zhao with the seal of office in gold and silver, asking Lord Xinling to return. In the letter to Lord Xinling, the king wrote, "In the past, my lord could not bear to see Zhao in danger. Today, can you bear to see Wei in danger? Wei is now in great crisis. I and all the people of the state are waiting for your return. Please forgive my past mistakes." But Lord Xinling still resented the king of Wei for abandoning him in the past and only remembering him 10 years later when danger came. So he hung a notice at his gate. Anyone who brings messages from the king of Wei will be executed. Yan stayed in Zhao for half a month, but he could not even see Lord Xinling. None of the retainers dared to report his arrival. Lord Xinling even shut his doors and refused to come out. Yan could do nothing at all. When Yan arrived in the state of Zhao, half a month passed and he still could not see Lord Xinling. He grew more and more anxious. Just at that time, the gambler Mao Gong and the drink seller Zhu Gong came to visit. Yan burst into tears and begged the 2 men to help him. They entered the residence and said to Lord Xinling, "We heard that you are going back to Wei. Qin troops are surrounding Daliang. Will you simply ignore it?" Lord Xinling replied, "I left Wei 10 years ago. I have long become a man of Zhao. The affairs of Wei have nothing to do with me." Mao Gong and Zhu Gong spoke sternly. "My lord, you are wrong. The reason you are respected in all the states is because you belong to Wei. If Qin breaks through Daliang and destroys the ancestral temple of the former kings, how will you face the world? At that time, how could you continue living in Zhao?" Lord Xinling began to sweat when he heard this. He stood up at once and said, "You are right. I almost became a sinner of the whole world." That very day he ordered his retainers to pack their things and went to the court to bid farewell to the king of Zhao. The king of Zhao was unwilling to let him go. With tears in his eyes, he said, "After I lost Lord Pingyuan, I have relied on you as one relies on the Great Wall. If you leave, who will I depend on?" Lord Xinling replied, "If with your blessing I can preserve the state, we will meet again someday." The king of Zhao then gave him the seal of the Supreme General, appointed Pang Nuan as his deputy, and sent 100,000 soldiers to assist Wei. Lord Xinling also sent messengers to contact Yan, Han, and Chu. Troops from 4 states gathered together. Only Qi refused to send soldiers. The king of Wei was greatly pleased and sent Wei Qing to receive them. Lord Xinling used a strategy of attacking in the east while striking in the west. He sent Pang Nuan to seize Qin's supply ships and lure Wang He into battle, while he himself set up an ambush at Mount Shaohua. Wang He lost his supplies and then ran into the ambush. He suffered a great defeat and fled, losing more than 50,000 men. Meng Ao hurried to rescue him, but he too was defeated by the allied armies of the 5 states and retreated all the way back to Hangu Pass, not daring to fight again. Lord Xinling's fame shook the world. Many states came to consult him about military strategy, and he compiled a work called The Military Methods of the Prince of Wei. When the king of Qin saw that direct battle would not work, he adopted Kaizi's strategy. He sent spies to Wei to spread rumors that the various states wanted to make Lord Xinling their king. He also used the crown prince of Wei, who was being held hostage in Qin, to send a letter to the king of Wei, saying that Lord Xinling's prestige was too great and that he might seize the throne. It even claimed that Qin itself wished to support him. The king of Wei had always been suspicious. When he read the letter, he began to doubt. The king of Qin deliberately sent letters in gold to Lord Xinling. In the letter he wrote, "Your fame has spread throughout the world. I wonder when the king of Wei will give the throne to you. I am eagerly waiting for that day." Lord Xinling passed the letter to the king of Wei exactly as it was and made it clear that he had no such intentions. He even wrote back and swore his loyalty. Although the king of Wei was somewhat reassured, his suspicion did not completely disappear. Lord Xinling felt deeply disappointed. He claimed illness, handed over military command, and spent his days drinking wine and enjoying life. Not long afterward, he died of illness. His retainers were overcome with grief. More than 100 of them committed suicide to follow him in death. After Lord Xinling died, Qin took advantage of the situation and attacked Wei, capturing 20 cities in succession. The king of Wei regretted deeply and said, if Lord Xinling were still alive, how would Qin dare to act like this? He then turned to Zhou, hoping to form an alliance against Qin. At that time, the Zhou general Lian Po had been slandered by Guo Kai and, in anger, had left for Wei. Seeing that Zhou no longer had Lian Po, Yan sent Zhu Xin with an army of 100,000 to attack Zhou. The king of Zhou sent Pang Nuan to meet the enemy. Zhu Xin believed himself to be an experienced general and looked down on Pang Nuan. Pang Nuan deliberately sent him a letter, falsely claiming that Li Mu had already cut off his retreat. Zhu Xin believed it and withdrew his army during the night, but at the Hulu River he was caught by Pang Nuan's pursuing troops. Zhu Xin sighed and said, "How could I live with the shame of being captured by Zhou?" He then killed himself with his sword. The Yan army suffered a crushing defeat, losing more than 20,000 men. The king of Yan had no choice but to seek peace. When Pang Nuan returned in victory, the king of Zhou praised him and said, "General, your bravery makes it seem as if Lian Po were still alive." But Pang Nuan replied, "Yan has already submitted. We should take this opportunity to unite the states and resist Qin together. Only then can we avoid disaster in the future." Meanwhile, in Qin, King Zhuangxiang died after only 3 years on the throne. The crown prince Zheng succeeded him. He was only 13 years old. Lu Buwei was honored as the senior father, and all state affairs were decided by him. Lu Buwei held enormous power. He kept 3,000 retainers, and the scale of his household was even greater than the royal funeral ceremonies. In the first year of King Zheng of Qin, Lu Buwei sent Meng Ao to attack Zhou and capture Xianyang. 3 years later, Meng Ao attacked Han. The old general Wang He, wanting to repay the king of Qin for pardoning him in the past, led his personal troops into battle and died on the battlefield. Taking advantage of the momentum, the Qin army seized 12 cities from Han. From that time on, the 6 states could no longer unite against Qin. The steps of Qin toward unifying the world had become impossible to stop.
Pang Nuan wanted to take advantage of the victory over Yan and unite the other states to fight against Qin. Except for Qi, which chose to follow Qin, the states of Han, Wei, Chu, and Yan all sent elite troops. They jointly recommended Lord Chenshen Huangzi as the supreme commander. Huangzi gathered the generals together and said, "Every time armies attack Qin, they march through Hangu Pass. The Qing forces defend that place very tightly, so none of those campaigns have succeeded. If we instead march through Pubang, move west from Huazhou, and strike directly toward Huayang, it would follow the principle of warfare known as attacking where the enemy least expects." Everyone agreed with this plan, so the allied army divided into 5 routes and marched directly toward Huayang. The Qin chancellor Lu Buwei sent the generals Meng Ao and Wang Jian, each leading 50,000 soldiers, to face them. Wang Jian said to Lu Buwei, "Chu is far in the south. Among all the armies, the Chu troops have traveled the longest distance. Since the death of Zheng Yi, they have not fought Qin for 30 years. If we concentrate our forces against Chu first, they will certainly not be able to withstand the attack. Once the Chu army is defeated, the other 4 armies will flee at the mere sight of danger." Lu Buwei thought his reasoning made sense, so he secretly ordered every camp to select 10,000 elite soldiers. They agreed that when the 4th watch drum sounded during the night, all the troops would set out together to attack the Chu camp. But something unexpected happened. Li Xin was angry because the supply officer, Gan Hui, had delayed transporting grain. Li Xin intended to execute him, but finally punished him with a whipping instead. Gan Hui hated Li Xin for this. That very night, he defected to the Chu army and told Lord Chenshen about Wang Jian's plan for a surprise attack. Lord Chenshen was shocked when he heard the news. He immediately ordered the camp to be pulled up, and the army marched 50 li away during the night. When the Qin troops rushed into the Chu camp, the Chu army had already withdrawn completely. Wang Jian said, "If the Chu army withdrew in advance, someone must have leaked our secret." He then changed direction and attacked the Zhou camp instead. The Zhou camp was strongly defended, and after a long battle, the Qin army still could not break through. When Pan Nuan saw that the Chu army had not arrived, he sent scouts to investigate. They reported that the Chu forces had already retreated. Pan Nuan sighed and said, "It seems that the plan to unite the states against Qin will never succeed." The generals of the other states all requested to return home, so the armies of Han and Wei withdrew first. Meanwhile, Lord Chenshen returned to the city of Ying. The other 4 states all sent envoys to question him. Chu was the leader of this alliance against Qin. Why did you withdraw without even informing the other states? King Kaoli of Chu also questioned Huang Zi and demanded an explanation. Huang Zi felt both ashamed and afraid. At that time, a man from Wei named Zhu Yingmen was serving as one of Huang Xi's retainers. Knowing that Chu feared Qin, Zhu Ying said to Huang Xi, "People believe that Chu used to be a powerful state, but has grown weak in your time. I do not see it that way. Now both Western Zhou and Eastern Zhou have already been swallowed by Qin. Qin has also just formed hostility with Wei, and sooner or later Wei will also fall. When Qin uses Chen and Xiu as its path, the struggle between Qin and Qiu will truly begin. The king may blame you even more in the future. Why not persuade the king to move the capital east to Shaochun? It is farther from Qin and protected by the Yangtze River and the Huai River. That would be much safer." Huang Xi agreed with the idea and decided to move the capital to Shaochun. At that time, King Kaoli had ruled for many years but still had no son. A man from Zhao, named Li Yuan, was also living in Huang Xi's household as a retainer. Li Yuan had a younger sister named Li Yan, who was extremely beautiful. Li Yuan wanted to present her to the king of Chu, but he worried that if she failed to bear a child, she would eventually lose favor. So he secretly thought of another plan. He would first present his sister to Lord Chenshen. After she became pregnant, he would then send her to the king. If she gives birth to a son, he thought, that child may become the king in the future, and he would be my own nephew. Li Yuan asked Lord Chenshen for 5 days of leave to return home, but he deliberately stayed away longer and only returned on the 10th day. Huang Zi asked why he had come back late. Li Yuan said, "I have a younger sister named Li Yan who is very beautiful. The king of Qi heard of her beauty and sent someone to propose marriage. I spent several days drinking with that envoy, which is why I returned late." Huang Xi thought to himself, if even the state of Qi knows of her beauty, she must truly be remarkable. He asked, "Has the marriage already been arranged?" Li Yuan replied, "It is still under discussion." Huang Xi asked, "May I see her?" Li Yuan said, "I serve under you. My sister is no different from one of your attendants. Of course you may see her." Li Yuan went home, dressed his sister carefully, and brought her to Huang Zi's residence. When Huang Zi saw her, he was very pleased. Within 3 months, Li Yuan became pregnant. Later, Li Yuan secretly asked his sister, which is more honorable, being a concubine or being a wife? Li Yuan laughed and said, "How could a concubine compare with a wife?" Li Yuan then asked, "Then which is more honorable, a wife or a queen?" Li Yan replied with another smile, "The queen is the most honorable of all." Li Yuan said, "You are only a favored concubine in Lord Chenshen's house, but the king of Chu has no son, and you are already pregnant. If you go to serve the king and give birth to a son, that child could become the next king of Chu. Then you would be the queen dowager. Would that not be better than being concubine?" He then taught her what to say to Lord Chenshen in private conversation. That night, while lying beside Huang Xi, Li Yan said, "The king of Chu relies on you deeply and trusts you even more than his own brothers. You have served as prime minister for 20 years, yet the king has no son. When he dies, one of his brothers will become king. His brothers are not close to you and will surely appoint their own trusted ministers. Will you still be able to keep your power?" Huang Xi said nothing. Li Yan continued, "I fear even more than that. You have offended many people among the king's brothers over the years. Once one of them becomes king, disaster will fall upon you. It will not simply be a matter of losing your lands." Huang Zi was stunned. "You are right," he said. "I had never thought about this. What should we do?" Li Yuan then said, "I have a plan that will not only remove this danger but also bring great benefit. But I feel ashamed to say it myself, and I fear you might not want to hear it." Huang Zi replied, "You are thinking for my sake. Why would I refuse to listen?" Li Yuan said, "I believe I may already be pregnant, though no one else knows yet. Since I have not served you for very long, if you present me to the king, he will certainly accept me because he trusts you. If heaven blesses me with a son, that child will become the king's son and one day inherit the throne. In truth, it would be your son who becomes king. Then the whole state of Chu would be in our hands. Is that not better than living in fear of disaster?" Huang Zi felt as if he had just awakened from a dream. He said happily, "People say that a clever woman can surpass a man. You truly are such a woman." The next day, Huang Xi summoned Li Yuan and repeated everything that had been said. He secretly arranged for Li Yan to move out of the residence and stay elsewhere. Then Huang Xi entered the palace and told the king of Chu, "I have heard that Li Yuan's sister Li Yan is extremely beautiful. Those who have examined her say she is blessed with fertility and a noble fate. The king of Qi has already sent people to seek her hand. Would your majesty like to request her first?" The king of Chu immediately ordered Li Yan to be summoned into the palace. Soon she became the king's favorite. When the time came, Li Yan gave birth to twin sons. The elder was named Han, and the younger was named Yu. The king was overjoyed. He immediately made Li Yan the queen, named the elder son Han as crown prince, and honored Li Yuan as the king's uncle. Li Yuan's power and respect became equal to that of Lord Chengxian. In the 25th year of King Kaoli's reign, the king fell seriously ill. Li Yuan suddenly remembered that only Lord Chengxian knew about Li Yan's pregnancy. If the crown prince later became king, that knowledge could become dangerous. So Li Yuan decided it would be safer to silence him forever. He began secretly gathering strong and fearless warriors. Zhou noticed this and grew suspicious. He went to Huang Xi and said, "In this world, there are unexpected blessings, unexpected disasters, and unexpected people." Huang Xi asked, "What is an unexpected blessing?" Zhu replied, "You have served as Prime Minister of Chu for more than 20 years. In name you are a minister, but in reality you share the king's authority. The king is seriously ill. Once he dies, the crown prince will inherit the throne, and you will guide the young king, just as Yi Yin and the Duke of Zhou once did. When the king grows older, you might even seize power yourself. If heaven and men agree, you could become king of Chu. That is an unexpected blessing," Huang Xi asked. "Then what is an unexpected disaster?" Zhu Ying said. "Li Yuan is the king's brother-in-law, but your power is greater than his. Though he appears respectful, he cannot truly accept this. People who seek the same prize will always envy each other. I hear he has been gathering fearless warriors. For what purpose? Once the king dies, Li Yuan will fight for power and kill you to silence you. That is the unexpected disaster," Huang Zi asked. "And what is the unexpected person?" Zhu Ying said, "Because his sister is queen, Li Yuan always knows what happens in the palace first. But you live outside the city and will always react later. If you appoint me as an official and allow me to stay near the king, I can take a few men with me. When the king dies, Li Yuan will certainly enter the palace first. I can kill him for you." Huang Xi laughed loudly and stroked his beard. "Li Yuan is weak and has always been respectful to me. You are thinking too much," Zhu Ying replied. "If you ignore my warning now, you will regret it too late," Huang Xi said. "You may go. Let me consider the matter." Zhu Ying waited 3 days and saw no action. He sighed deeply. "If I stay here, disaster will come. I will follow the example of Fan Li and withdraw from the world." He left without saying farewell. 17 days later, King Kaoli died. Li Yuan had already arranged everything with the palace guards. As soon as the king died, they reported to him immediately. Li Yuan rushed into the palace and ordered that the king's death be kept secret. He brought the warriors he had gathered into the palace and hid them near the Thorn Gate. Only after sunset did he send word to Huangzi. Huangzi was shocked and hurried into the palace without thinking. As soon as he entered the Thorn Gate, hidden warriors rushed out and shouted, "By secret order of the queen, Lord Changshen has plotted rebellion. Execute him at once." Huangzi realized too late that something had gone wrong. He turned his chariot to flee, but it was already too late. His followers were scattered and killed. His head was cut off and thrown outside the city. After killing Lord Changshen, Li Yuan closed the city gates, announced the king's death, and placed the crown Prince Han on the throne. This was King Yu of Chu. At that time, the young king was only 6 years old. Li Yuan made himself prime minister and controlled all power in Chu. Li Yuan became the queen dowager. Li Yuan then ordered the extermination of Lord Changshen's family and reclaimed all his lands. Meanwhile, in Qing, Lu Buwei was furious about the alliance of 5 states attacking Qing. He said, the one who led that alliance was Pan Yunwan of Shao. So he sent Meng Ao and Zhang Tang with 50,000 soldiers to attack Shao. 3 days later, he sent Lord Chang'an, Chen Zhao, and Fan Youqi with another 50,000 troops to reinforce them. Some people around Lu Buwei said, Lord Chang'an is still very young. He may not be suitable to command an army. Lu Buwei laughed and said, "You do not understand why I have done this." Meng Ao's advance army passed through Hangu Pass, moved through Shandong, and advanced toward Qingdu, where they set up camp near Mount Du. Chang Zhao's forces camped at Tunlu to prepare to support Meng Ao. Zhao sent its prime minister Pang Nuan as commander and Hu Zhe as deputy, leading 100,000 soldiers. The king of Zhao allowed Pang Nuan to decide the strategy according to the situation on the battlefield. Pang Nuan said, "North of Qingdu stands Mount Yao, the highest peak. From there we can overlook Mount Du. We must occupy Mount Yao first." He sent Hu Zhe with 20,000 soldiers ahead. But when Hu Zhe arrived at the foot of Mount Yao, he discovered that more than 10,000 Qing soldiers were already stationed there. Hu Zhe attacked and drove them away, then established his own camp on the mountain. When Meng Ao learned that Mount Yao had fallen, he immediately sent Zhang Tang with 20,000 troops to seize it back. By then, Pang Nuan's main army had already arrived. The two armies lined up below the mountain and fought a fierce battle. Hu Zhe stood on the mountain waving a red flag as a signal. When Zhang Tang moved east, the flag pointed east. When he moved west, the flag pointed west. Following the flag's direction, the Zhao army surrounded Zhang Tan. Zhang Tan fought desperately but could not break out. Fortunately, Meng Ao arrived with reinforcements and rescued him. They both withdrew to the main camp at Mount Du. Qingdu saw that Zhao reinforcements had arrived and strengthened its defenses. After many attacks failed, Meng Ao sent Zhang Tang to Tunle to hurry the reinforcements. Meanwhile, Chen Zhao was only 17 years old and did not understand warfare. He asked Fan Youqi for advice. Fan Youqi deeply hated Lu Buwei for seizing power. He asked Chen Zhao to dismiss the attendants and told him the whole story. He said, "The current king is not the true blood of the former king. Only you are his real son. Lu Buwei has given you command of the army, not out of kindness, but to send you far from the court. If the truth becomes known, he fears you will threaten the present king. He and the queen dowager fear only you. If Meng Ao fails in battle, they will use that as an excuse to punish you. At best, you will lose rank. At worst, you will be executed. Then the Qin state, founded by the Ying family, will become the state of the Lu family." Chen Zhao was shocked. "If you had not told me, I would never have known. What should we do?" Fan Youqi said. "Meng Ao is trapped by Zhao and desperately needs help. You command a powerful army. If we issue a proclamation revealing the crimes of Lu Buwei and the conspiracy within the palace, the people of Qin will support you." Chen Zhao gripped his sword and said angrily, "A true man may die, but he should never kneel before the son of a merchant. Think of a plan." Fan Yuqi pretended to reassure the messenger sent by Meng Ao and then secretly wrote a proclamation accusing the king of Qin of being the illegitimate son of Lu Buwei. He called on the people of Qin to support Chen Zhao as ruler. Many people in Qin had already heard rumors that Lu Buwei had given his concubine to the king. When they read the proclamation, many believed it. At that time, a comet appeared in the eastern sky and later moved to the north and west. Astrologers said such a sign foretold internal war in Qin. People became even more uneasy. Fan Yuqi gathered young men from around Tunliu into the army and captured the cities of Changji and Huguan. Their forces continued to grow stronger. When Zhang Tang learned that Changjiao had rebelled, he rushed back to Xianyang day and night to report. King Zheng of Qin was furious when he read the proclamation and summoned Lu Buwei. Lu Buwei said, "Lord Changyan is still young. There is no need to punish him. This rebellion is entirely the work of Fan Yuqi. He is brave but foolish. Send troops and he will soon be captured." Lu Buwei appointed Wang Jian as general, with Huan Yi and Wang Ben as the two vanguard commanders, leading 100,000 troops to suppress the rebellion. Meanwhile, Meng Ao and Pang Luan were still confronting each other at Mount Yao. When Meng Ao learned that Chang Jiao had rebelled, he was shocked. "If I continue attacking Zhao, I will still be guilty. Only by suppressing the rebellion can I clear my name." He ordered the army to withdraw. Pang Luan secretly sent 3,000 elite soldiers under Hu Zhao to ambush them in the forests of the Taihang Mountains. When the Qin army passed through, the Zhao soldiers attacked from behind. Meng Ao fought bravely but was surrounded by arrows and killed beneath the Taihang Mountains. Pang Luan returned to Zhao victorious, but his arrow wound never healed and he soon died. Meanwhile, Wang Jian's army reached Tongliu. Cheng Jiao was terrified. Fan Yuqi said, "You are already riding a tiger and cannot get down. We have 150,000 soldiers in 3 cities. If we fight with our backs to the city walls, the outcome is still uncertain." Fan Yuqi prepared for battle. He shouted challenges before the city. Wang Jian answered calmly and accused him of rebellion. Fan Yuqi charged into the Qin ranks with fierce courage. His bravery shocked the Qin army, but night fell and both sides withdrew. Wang Jian thought carefully and decided that such a warrior could only be defeated by strategy. He wrote a secret letter and gave it to Yan Huai, telling him to sneak into the city and persuade Changjiao to surrender. Meanwhile, Wang Jian divided his army to attack several cities at once so that the rebels could not support each other. Fan Yuqi urged Changjiao to fight immediately, but Changjiao was young and frightened. He said through tears, "This was your plan. Handle it yourself." Fan Yuqi led 10,000 elite soldiers out of the city to fight. Wang Jian pretended to retreat and lured them away. Fan Yuqi returned victorious to the city. Yang Duanhe seized the opportunity to slip into the city among the soldiers that night. Fan Yuqi said to Chang Jiao, "Today we have broken the enemy's spirit. Tomorrow we will lead all our forces into battle, capture Wang Jian alive, march into Xianyang, and place you on the throne. Only then will my wish be fulfilled." Taking advantage of the momentum after defeating Yan, Pang Luan united the states of Han, Wei, Chu, and Yan. They chose Lord Chenshen Huangzi as the supreme commander and launched a joint campaign against Qin. Huangzi proposed avoiding the heavily defended Hangu Pass. Instead, the armies would march through Puban and strike directly toward Huayang, catching Qin by surprise. 5 armies advanced in great force and soon surrounded the city of Huayang so tightly that not even water could pass through. The Qin chancellor, Lu Buwei, sent 5 generals, including Meng Ao and Wang Jian, each leading 50,000 soldiers to face them. Lu Buwei himself commanded the main army and established 5 connected camps outside Tong Pass. Wang Jian suggested a plan. Among the allied armies, the Chu forces have traveled the farthest. They have not fought Qin for 30 years, so their morale must be the weakest. If we concentrate our elite troops and launch a night attack on the Chu camp, once the Chu army collapses, the other 4 states will flee at the mere sight of danger. Lu Buwei was delighted and secretly ordered each camp to select elite soldiers. They agreed to launch a surprise attack on the Chu camp at the 4th watch of the night. However, things did not go as planned. The Qin general Li Xin became angry because the grain officer Gan Hui had delayed the delivery of supplies. Li Xin first intended to execute him, but later changed the punishment to 100 lashes. Gan Hui held deep resentment. That very night he fled to the Chu camp and revealed the entire plan of the Qin night attack. Lord Chenshen was shocked. He did not even dare inform the allied states, fearing that delay would bring disaster. He immediately ordered the entire army to pull up camp and retreat 50 li during the night. When the Qin troops arrived,
The Chu camp was already completely empty. Wang Zhan sighed and said, "Our secret has been exposed. The plan has failed." Still unwilling to return empty-handed, he turned his army and launched a surprise attack on the Zhou camp. The Zhou camp was heavily guarded. Peng Nuan stood at the gate of the camp with his sword in hand and strictly ordered that anyone acting without command would be executed. The Qin army fought through the entire night but achieved nothing. By dawn, the reinforcements from the other 3 states had arrived, and Meng Ao had no choice but to withdraw. When Peng Nuan learned that the Chu army had left without notice, he sighed deeply. The alliance against Qin will never succeed from this day forward. The generals of the allied states lost their confidence. Han and Wei withdrew their armies first. Peng Nuan resented Qi for supporting Qin, so he persuaded Yan and Zhou to attack Qi together. After capturing the city of Rawan, they finally returned to their own states. Lord Chun-shen returned to Chu, where he was questioned by King Kaoli and criticized by envoys from other states. He felt deeply ashamed. A retainer named Zhu Ying advised him, "Chu now faces enemies on all sides. It would be better to move the capital to Shuchun. There, the rivers can serve as natural defenses." Lord Chun-shen accepted the suggestion, and the state of Chu moved its capital once again. At this time, King Kaoli still had no sons. Lord Chun-shen searched everywhere for women who could bear children to present to the king, but none succeeded. Among his retainers was a man from Zhou named Li Yuan, who had a beautiful sister named Li Yan. Li Yuan thought to himself, "If I offer her directly to the king and she fails to bear a son, she will lose favor. Instead, I should first present her to Lord Chun-shen. When she becomes pregnant, I will then present her to the king. If she gives birth to a son who becomes crown prince, then the state of Chu will belong to the Li family." Li Yuan deliberately took leave and returned late. When he came back, he claimed that the king of Qi wished to marry his sister. Lord Chun-shen became curious and summoned Li Yan. When he saw her, he was immediately captivated and took her as a concubine. Before long, Li Yan became pregnant. Following her brother's instructions, Li Yan said to Lord Chun-shen, "You have governed Chu for 20 years and hold enormous power. If the king dies and one of his brothers becomes king, you will surely be removed and may even lose your life. Now that I am pregnant, if you present me to the king and I give birth to a son, your own child will become king of Chu. Would not the real power of Chu remain in your hands forever?" Lord Chun-shen suddenly realized the opportunity. He followed the plan and presented Li Yan to the king of Chu. Later, Li Yan gave birth to 2 sons. The elder son was made crown prince, Li Yan became queen, and Li Yuan became the king's uncle. His power soon rivaled that of Lord Chun-shen. Although Li Yuan appeared respectful, he secretly feared that Lord Chun-shen knew too much. When King Kali fell seriously ill, Li Yuan secretly gathered assassins to silence him. The retainer Zhu Ying sensed the danger and warned Lord Chun-shen. In this world there are unexpected blessings, unexpected disasters, and unexpected people. If you support the young king after the death of the old king, you may gain the power of a ruler. That is the blessing. But Li Yuan will surely enter the palace first and kill you to silence you. That is the disaster. If you appoint me as a guard, I can kill Li Yuan for you. That is the person." Lord Chun-shen laughed and dismissed the warning. He believed Li Yuan was weak and loyal and refused to act. Seeing that his advice was ignored, Zhu Ying sighed and left. 17 days later, King Kali died. Li Yuan rushed into the palace first and hid his assassins inside the Thorn Gate. When Lord Chun-shen came to mourn the king, he entered the gate without suspicion. Suddenly, assassins rushed out and cut him down with swords. His head was thrown outside the city walls. Li Yuan immediately placed the 6-year-old crown prince on the throne and seized full control of the government. He ordered the extermination of Lord Chun-shen's entire family. From that moment, the state of Chu began to decline rapidly. Meanwhile, in Qin, Liu Buwei was furious about the attack by the 5 states. He sent Meng Ao and Zhang Teng to attack Shao and also ordered Lord Cheng and Cheng Zhao and the general Fan Yuqi to lead reinforcements. Fan Yuqi knew the secret about Liu Buwei's relationship with the Queen Dowager and the suspicious birth of the King of Qin. He persuaded the young Cheng Zhao to rebel. He wrote a proclamation declaring that King Zheng of Qin was the illegitimate son of Liu Buwei and called on the people of Qin to support Cheng Zhao as the rightful ruler. When the proclamation spread, the people of Qin became restless. Meng Ao was fighting on the front line and had been unable to achieve victory. When he heard that Cheng Zhao had rebelled in the rear, he was shocked and immediately withdrew his army. During the retreat, the Zhao army launched an ambush. The famous general Meng Ao fought bravely but was killed in battle. The Zhao commander Pang Nuan also died later from his wounds. Wang Jian then led a large Qin army to surround the city of Tunliu, where Cheng Zhao was stationed. Fan Yuqi fought with great courage and broke through the encirclement many times, making it difficult for Wang Jian to win. So Wang Jian changed his strategy and used a plan of deception. He sent Yang Duanhe, who had once served under Cheng Zhao, to sneak into the city and persuade him to surrender. Cheng Zhao was young and timid. While Fan Yuqi continued fighting outside, his own determination began to waver. At this point in the story, Cheng Zhao faces the letter of persuasion sent by Wang Jian and struggles with his decision, while Fan Yuqi remains determined to seize the throne for him. A bloody internal conflict within Qin is about to erupt. Wang Jian withdrew his army 10 li and strengthened his defenses without coming out to fight. At the same time, he sent troops to capture the cities of Changzi and Huguan. Fan Yuqi was shocked, and Cheng Zhao became frightened as well. Wang Jian then sent Yang Duanhe, who had once served as a retainer of Cheng Zhao, to secretly enter the city and persuade him to surrender. Yang Duanhe said to him, "Qin is powerful. Even when the 6 states unite, they cannot defeat it. How can you hope to win by relying on this single city? Fan Yuqi is forcing you to take a great risk." Cheng Zhao burst into tears and said, "General Fan is loyal. I cannot bear to kill him." Yang Duanhe then took out a letter from Wang Jian and said, "If you kill Fan Yuqi and surrender the city, your life will be spared. But if you hesitate, it will soon be too late to regret." Cheng Zhao was unable to make up his mind. He only thought about escaping to Yan or Zhao. Fan Yuqi wanted to take him away, but Cheng Zhao worried about his family members who were still in Xianyang. At that moment, the Qin army came to challenge them. Fan Yuqi went out to fight but was defeated and retreated back to the city, shouting for the gates to be opened. But Yang Duanhe raised the banner of surrender and shouted, "Lord Chang'an has already decided to surrender." Cheng Zhao could only stand there with tears in his eyes. Fan Yuqi sighed and said, "This child is not worth supporting." He fought his way out of the encirclement and fled to the state of Yan. Cheng Zhao was imprisoned. King Zheng of Qin ordered his execution. Cheng Zhao hanged himself. Wang Jian cut off his head and hung it on the city gate. Tens of thousands of officers and soldiers were executed, and the people were relocated to Lintao. After the rebellion was suppressed, King Zheng of Qin gradually grew into adulthood and showed great wisdom and decisiveness. Lord Gangcheng Kaize suggested forming an alliance with Yan in order to isolate Zhao. The king of Qin sent envoys to Yan. The king of Yan sent Crown Prince Dan to Qin as a hostage and asked Qin to send a chancellor to Yan. Buwei intended to send Zhang Tang, but Zhang Tang refused and said, "I once attacked Zhao. Zhao hates me deeply. If I pass through Zhao territory, I will surely die." Buwei was displeased. A young retainer named Genlo, only 12 years old, asked what had happened and said, "I will persuade him." Buwei laughed and said, "What can a child like you understand?" Genlo replied, "Shang Tuo was 7 years old and even became the teacher of Confucius. I am already 12. Let me try." Buwei agreed and promised to grant him the rank of minister. Genlo went to see Zhang Tang and said, "I have come to mourn for you." Zhang Tang was greatly startled. Genlo asked, "Compared with Lord Wuan Bai Qi, how great are your achievements?" Zhang Tang answered, "Not even 1/10 as great." Genlo then asked, "Compared with Fan Sui, does Buwei hold more power or less?" Zhang Tang replied, "Buwei holds even greater power." Genlo said, "In the past, Fan Sui ordered Bai Qi to attack Zhao. When Bai Qi refused, he was forced to die at Deyu. Now Buwei asks you to go to Yan. If you refused, your death will not be far away." Zhang Tang's face turned pale with fear. He immediately agreed to depart. Genlo then requested permission to visit Zhao first. Seeing his intelligence, the king of Qin sent him as an envoy. Genlo met the king of Zhao and said, "Crown Prince Dan of Yan has gone to Qin as a hostage, and Zhang Tang will go to Yan. This means Qin and Yan will form an alliance to attack Zhao. Instead, your majesty should give 5 cities to Qin. I will persuade the king of Qin to stop Zhang Tang and break the alliance between Qin and Yan. Then Zhao can attack Yan and gain far more than 5 cities." The king of Zhao was delighted and presented the land and gifts. Qin obtained territory without sending a single soldier. Zhou attacked Yan and captured 30 cities in Shanggu and then gave 11 cities to Qin. The king of Qin rewarded Genluo with the rank of high minister. Sadly, Genluo died young despite his great talent. Because of this, Crown Prince Dan remained trapped in Qin.
Meanwhile, Li Buwei feared that when the king of Qin grew older, he might punish him for his secret relationship with the Queen Dowager, so he decided to find someone to take his place. He heard about a man named Lao Ai who possessed extraordinary strength and vitality. Li Buwei arranged for Lao Ai to pretend to have undergone castration and then sent him into the palace to serve the Queen Dowager. The Queen Dowager was delighted. She lived with Lao Ai like husband and wife, and even gave birth to 2 sons, whom she hid in a secret chamber. Lao Ai was granted the title Lord Changxin. His power soon surpassed even that of Li Buwei. He gathered thousands of retainers, and his influence spread throughout the court. In the 9th year of King Zheng's reign, the king went to Yangcheng for his coming-of-age ceremony. During a drinking and gambling gathering, Lao Ai quarreled with others. While drunk, he shouted loudly, "I am the false father of the present king." These words soon reached the ears of King Zheng. The king secretly mobilized troops. When Lao Ai discovered the matter, he rushed to see the Queen Dowager, stole the royal seal, and issued a false command in the king's name to attack the Qinian palace, where the king was staying. King Zheng stood on a platform and shouted, "There are no rebels except Lao Ai. Whoever kills him will receive a reward of 1 million coins." The palace eunuchs rushed out to fight, and common people also came to help. Lao Ai's forces were defeated, and he fled. Huan Yi captured him alive. The king discovered the 2 secret sons of Lao Ai and the Queen Dowager in a hidden chamber and had them placed in bags and beaten to death. Lao Ai was executed by being torn apart by chariots, and his entire clan was exterminated. The Queen Dowager was sent to live in confinement at the Huayang palace. During the investigation, prison officials revealed that Li Buwei had introduced Lao Ai. King Zheng wanted to execute Li Buwei, but the ministers pleaded for mercy, saying that Li Buwei had once rendered great service and that there was no direct evidence. In the end, the king dismissed Li Buwei from the position of chancellor. Because the Queen Dowager had been exiled, the weather suddenly turned cold. A minister named Chang Zheng presented a remonstrance and said, "How can a son live without his mother? Please bring the Queen Dowager back." King Zheng was furious and had Cheng Zhang executed on a bed of thorns. A notice was posted throughout the state. Anyone who dares to speak again about the Queen Dowager will suffer the same punishment. Even so, ministers continued to come forward one after another to offer their advice. King Zheng of Qin executed 27 ministers who had dared to offer advice. Their bodies were laid out in front of the palace hall, and no one dared to speak again. At that moment, a man from Kangzhou named Mao Zhao arrived. He said he would make the number equal to the 28 constellations and was willing to risk his life to offer remonstrance. The king of Qin was furious and ordered that he be boiled alive. Mao Zhao said calmly, "You have torn apart your false father with chariots, killed your younger brother, and exiled your own mother. These are the deeds of tyrants like Ji and Zhou. When people across the world hear of this, who will still submit to Qin? My death is nothing to regret. What I fear is that loyal ministers will disappear and the hearts of the people will turn away from you." When the king heard these words, cold sweat covered his body. He personally helped Mao Zhao to his feet, ordered the great cauldron removed, and immediately prepared a carriage to go to Yangcheng and bring back the Queen Dowager. When mother and son met again, they embraced and cried together. The king of Qin appointed Mao Zhao as a high minister. After this, the king worried that Li Buwei might again join with the Queen Dowager. He ordered Li Buwei to move to Henan. Envoys from many states began visiting Li Buwei. The king of Qin grew suspicious and wrote him a letter of reproach. "What service have you given Qin? What kinship do you claim? How dare you associate with the rulers of other states?" After reading the letter, Li Buwei sighed and said, "I helped place the former king on the throne, and the present king is truly like my own son, yet he treats me like this."
He then drank poison and ended his life. Soon afterward, the king of Qin ordered the expulsion of all foreign advisors and guests. Li Si was among those who were dismissed. On his way out, he wrote the famous memorial called Petition Against Expelling the Guests. He wrote, "Mount Tai does not reject small grains of soil, and therefore it can become great. Rivers and seas do not refuse small streams, and therefore they become deep."
Duke Mu of Qin employed Yu Yu and Bailey Shi. Duke Cao employed Xianyang. King Hui employed Zhang Yi. King Zhou employed Fan Sui. All of them relied on men from other states to achieve great power. Why would your majesty now abandon such men? To expel them is to strengthen your enemies. When the king of Qin read this memorial, he realized his mistake. He recalled Li Si and restored him to office. Li Si then offered another plan. Now the 6 states are weak. We should first destroy Han, and then turn our attention to Zhao and Wei. The king of Qin accepted the proposal and sent troops to attack Han. The king of Han sent Prince Han Fei to Qin to seek peace. Han Fei was extremely talented, and the king of Qin wanted to employ him. But Li Si became jealous and falsely accused Han Fei of being a spy for Han. Han Fei was thrown into prison and eventually forced to commit suicide. Li Si then recommended a strategist named Wei Liao. Wei Liao proposed a plan. Use great amounts of gold to bribe the powerful ministers of the other states and break their alliances. The king of Qin was very pleased. He treated Wei Liao as his teacher and provided large sums of money to send envoys with gifts to the courts of the other states. The king of Qin then sent Han Ya to attack Wei, though the real target was Zhao. Wei Liao's disciple Wang Ao carried gold to Wei and persuaded the king of Wei to give land to Zhao in exchange for help. The king of Wei agreed. Wang Ao then used more gold to bribe Guo Kai, the favored minister of the king of Zhao. Guo Kai persuaded the king of Zhao to send troops to take over the territory from Wei. At that moment, Qin troops attacked the Zhao army. The Zhao general Hu Zhao was defeated and killed. The king of Zhao then thought about recalling the old general Lian Po, but Guo Kai hated Lian Po and bribed the envoy Tang Ju. He said, "If Lian Po still appears strong, report that he is old and useless." When Tang Ju met Lian Po, he saw that the old general could still eat large meals, put on armor, and mount a horse with great strength. But after receiving the bribe, he reported to the king of Zhao, "General Lian can still eat well, but while sitting with me for a short time, he went to relieve himself 3 times. The king of Zhao sighed and said, "How can a general fight battles if he must go to the toilet so often?" So he gave up the plan of recalling Lian Po. Lian Po later went to the state of Qiu and died there in sadness. After King Daoxiang of Zhao died, Guo Kai supported an illegitimate son named Qian to become the new king. The Qin general Huan Yi took advantage of Zhao's mourning period and attacked Zhao. He killed Hu Jia, slaughtered 100,000 people, and advanced toward Handan. The king of Zhao, Qian, urgently recalled Li Mu, the governor of Dai Commandery, to defend the capital. Li Mu arrived with elite soldiers and refused to leave his fortified camp. Every day he rewarded the soldiers generously. When the Qin army attacked, Li Mu waited until their camps were empty and launched a night attack. Huan Yi suffered a crushing defeat. The king of Zhao awarded Li Mu the title Lord Wuan. The king of Qin was furious. He demoted Huan Yi to the rank of commoner and sent the generals Wang Jian and Yang Duanhe to attack Zhao again from 2 directions. In the 5th year of King Qian of Zhao, a great earthquake struck Daizhou. Most houses collapsed, and the ground split open for more than 100 paces. Soon after that, Handan also suffered a severe drought. Among the people, a children's rhyme spread. The people of Qin laugh, the people of Zhao cry. If you do not believe it, look at the earth-growing hair. The next year, the fields really produced strange white hairs from the soil, nearly 1 chi long. But the corrupt minister Guo Kai concealed all these ominous signs and did not allow King Zhao to know about them. At this time, King Zhang of Qin again sent his great generals Wang Jian and Yang Duanhe to attack Zhao from 2 directions. The famous Zhao general Li Mu defended Gray Spring Mountain. His camp stretched for dozens of li, and the Qin army could not break through despite repeated attacks. When King Qin saw that a direct assault would not succeed, he sent Wang Ao with large amounts of gold to bribe Guo Kai. Wang Ao said to him, "Li Mu has secretly made peace with Qin.
He has promised that after Zhou falls, he will be allowed to keep control of Dai Commandery. If you can persuade the king of Zhou to remove Li Mu, great rewards will surely come to you. Guo Kai had already been secretly cooperating with Qin. He immediately slandered Li Mu before the king of Zhou. The king secretly sent people to investigate. They saw that Li Mu and Wang Jian had been exchanging letters frequently, so the king believed the accusation. Guo Kai then suggested that the king pretend to promote Li Mu to the position of chancellor and summon him back to the capital. Sima Shang privately warned Li Mu, "Guo Kai is accusing you of rebellion. The king has believed his slander. This promotion is only a trick to bring you back." Li Mu said angrily, "Guo Kai first harmed Lian Po, and now he is harming me. I should lead my army back to cleanse the court of traitors, but people would surely accuse me of rebellion." So Li Mu hung up his official seal and fled during the night, planning to seek refuge in Wei. But Zhao Kong sent soldiers after him. They caught Li Mu while he was still drunk and had not yet awakened, bound him, and executed him. Thus a great general of his age died at the hands of a treacherous minister. The soldiers of Daizhou deeply respected Li Mu. When they heard the news, they scattered and fled. The Qin army then launched a massive attack. Zhao Kong divided his forces to respond, but he fell into Wang Jian's ambush and was defeated and killed. The Qin army surrounded Handan. At this time, the king of Han had already surrendered to Qin, and King Zheng of Qin personally came to Handan to command the campaign. Guo Kai urged King Qian of Zhou to surrender. He said that if they offered the famous He-Shi jade, they could still preserve wealth and status. Prince Zhao wept and tried to stop him. He wished to defend the city with Yanzhu, and even drew his sword to kill Guo Kai, but King Qian was foolish and refused to listen. Instead, he followed Guo Kai's plan and personally went out of the west gate to present the letter of surrender. Yanzhu and Prince Jia saw that the situation was hopeless. That very night, they broke out of the city and fled to Dai Commandery, where Prince Jia proclaimed himself King of Dai. King Zheng of Qin entered Handan and accepted the surrender of King Qian of Zhou. He established Julu Commandery and exiled King Qian to Fangling. Living in a stone house there, the former king once heard the sound of flowing water and sighed sadly. Even the water, without feeling, can still flow into the Han River. Yet I, once the ruler of 10,000 chariots, can only dream of my homeland. Not long afterward, he died of illness. Guo Kai later asked permission to return home to collect his wealth. While traveling with carts full of gold on the way to Xianyang, he was killed by bandits. Some people said the attackers were former soldiers of Li Mu. Thus, the man who sold his country for gold lost both his wealth and his life. Meanwhile, Crown Prince Dan of Yan had once been a hostage in Qin and suffered great humiliation. During the chaos, he managed to escape back to Yan. It is said that when he fled, he looked up to the sky and shouted in fury. His anger rose so violently that his black hair instantly turned white. Even then, Qin still refused to release him, so he disguised himself and secretly slipped out through Hangu Pass. After returning to Yan, Prince Dan swore to take revenge on Qin. He spent his entire fortune recruiting brave warriors. The Qin general Fan Yuqi had offended the king of Qin and fled to Yan. Prince Dan treated him as an honored guest, but the tutor Zhu Wu advised him, "Qin is like a tiger or wolf. Sheltering its enemy will only bring disaster to Yan. It would be better to send General Fan to the Xiongnu and then form alliances with other states." Prince Dan replied, "General Fan came to me because he had nowhere else to go. How can I abandon him just because Qin is powerful? Besides, my anger burns like fire. I cannot wait so long." Zhu Wu had no choice but to recommend a man of deep wisdom named Tian Guang. Prince Dan personally welcomed Tian Guang and knelt to brush the mat before asking his advice. Tian Guang said, "I am already old, but I know a man named Jing Kai. He is extremely brave, and his emotions never show on his face. He can shoulder a great task." Prince Dan asked Tian Guang to introduce him. As Tian Guang was leaving, Prince Dan said, "What we discussed is a matter of the state. Please do not reveal it." Tian Guang smiled and said, "A man of honor should never allow others to doubt him." He then went to find Jing Kai, explained the prince's intentions, and immediately drew his sword and killed himself to prove his loyalty. When Jing Kai met Prince Dan, the prince treated him with great generosity. One day they walked in the Eastern Palace garden. Jing Kai picked up roof tiles and used them to strike turtles for sport. Prince Dan personally brought golden pellets for him to throw. When Jing Kai said that horse liver tasted delicious, Prince Dan immediately killed a famous 1,000 li horse and served its liver. Another time, Prince Dan ordered a beautiful woman to play the zither. Jin Kai praised the beauty of her hands, and Prince Dan actually cut off the woman's hands and presented them to him. Jin Kai sighed and said, "The prince treats me with such generosity. I must repay him with my life." Prince Dan then explained his plan. "I want to send a brave man to Qin as an envoy. He will seize the king of Qin and force him to return the lands taken from the other states. If that fails, he will kill him. When Qin falls into chaos, we will unite the states and destroy Qin together. This great task can only be entrusted to you."
Jin Kai thought for a long time. In the end, he agreed. Jin Kai had received great kindness from Crown Prince Dan of Yan, and he swore to risk his life to assassinate King Yingzhang of Qin, but he felt that the time was not yet right. He wanted to wait for his friend Gai Ni to arrive and join him. Crown Prince Dan was extremely anxious and said that the Qin army would soon cross the Ye River. Jin Kai replied, "If we want to get close to the king of Qin, we must bring something he truly wants. The head of General Fan Yuki, together with the map of Dukang and Yan, will certainly make the king agree to see us." Prince Dan could not bear to kill Fan Yuki, so Jin Kai secretly went to see Fan Yuki and said, "I have a plan that can both save Yan and avenge your hatred, but I must borrow your head." When Fan Yuki heard this, he immediately drew his sword and cut his own throat. Prince Dan burst into tears. He placed Fan Yuki's head inside a box. Then he obtained a dagger made by Master Su and coated it with a deadly poison. Once it drew blood, death would follow immediately. Jin Kai set out for Qin, taking Qin Huayang as his assistant. On the day of departure, Prince Dan and the guests all wore white robes and mourning caps to send him off at the Ye River. Gao Zhenli struck the zither. Jin Kai sang along with the rhythm. The wind sighs and the Ye River runs cold. Once the hero leaves, he will never return. The song was mournful and everyone shed tears. Jin Kai breathed deeply toward the sky, and it was said his breath rose like a white rainbow piercing the sun. Then he sang again, "I enter the tiger's den and the dragon's palace. My breath rises to the sky and becomes a white rainbow." This time the song was fierce and stirring. Everyone opened their eyes wide. Jin Kai stepped into the carriage and left without looking back. When he arrived in Xianyang, Jin Kai bribed the favored minister Meng Jia and obtained permission to see the king of Qin. In the great hall, Qin Huayang became so frightened that his face turned pale. Jin Kai remained calm and explained that Qin Huayang was a man from a distant land who had never seen the sun of heaven before. The king of Qin allowed only Jin Kai to step forward. Jin Kai first presented the head of Fan Yuki. The king of Qin was greatly pleased. Then Jin Kai offered the map. As the map was slowly unrolled, a dagger suddenly appeared at the end. Jin Kai grabbed the sleeve of the king with his left hand and stabbed toward his chest with the dagger in his right hand. The king of Qin was shocked. He tore off his sleeve and ran away. The king carried a precious sword named Lulu, 8 chi long. He tried to draw it to strike Jin Kai, but the sword was too long and could not easily be pulled from the scabbard. The king could only run around the pillars. According to Qin law, ministers in the hall were not allowed to carry weapons. The guards stood below the steps and could not reach them immediately. The royal physician Sha Wu Ju threw a medicine bag at Jin Kai. Someone shouted, "Your Majesty, push the sword behind your back and then draw it." The king understood. He pulled out the sword and cut off Jin Kai's left leg. Jin Kai fell to the ground and threw the dagger with all his strength. The dagger brushed past the king's ear and struck into the pillar. Jin Kai shouted angrily, "I wanted to capture you alive and force you to withdraw your armies. I never expected you to escape by luck." Soon the guards rushed in and killed him. Qin Huayang was also executed outside the hall. The king of Qin was furious. He immediately sent Wang Jian to attack Yan. The king of Yan killed Crown Prince Dan and presented his head to Qin in an attempt to make peace, but it was useless. Yan was soon destroyed. After that, the Qin general Wang Ben attacked Wei. He diverted the waters of the Yellow River to flood the city of Daliang. King Jia of Wei was captured, and the state of Wei was destroyed. Next, the king of Qin prepared to attack Chu. He asked Li Xin how many soldiers he would need. Li Xin said that 200,000 troops would be enough. Then the king asked the old general Wang Jian. Wang Jian replied that no fewer than 600,000 troops would be required. The king of Qin believed Wang Jian had grown old and timid, so he sent Li Xin with 200,000 soldiers to attack Chu, but Li Xin suffered a disastrous defeat and returned. The king had no choice but to personally invite Wang Jian to take command, promising him 600,000 troops. Before the campaign began, the king held a farewell banquet for Wang Jian at Bashang. Wang Jian asked the king to grant him fertile land and fine houses. The king said, "When you return victorious, wealth and honor will come naturally. Why worry about poverty now? Wang Jian replied, I am old. It would be better to prepare some property for my descendants while I still can. The king laughed and agreed. After Wang Jian set out with his army, he repeatedly sent messengers back to request more estates and gardens. His subordinates felt he was being too greedy. Wang Jian said to them privately, The king of Qin is strong, decisive, and very suspicious. Today he has entrusted 600,000 soldiers to me, which means the entire strength of the state is in my hands. By constantly asking for land and estates and claiming that I want to secure wealth for my descendants, I am simply reassuring the king and calming his doubts. Wang Jian replaced Li Xin as the chief general and led 600,000 troops to attack the state of Chu. Xianyang defended Donggang and saw that the Qin army was extremely large. He asked the king of Chu to send more troops, but Wang Jian camped at Tianzhong Mountain and built strong defenses. He refused to attack. Every day he allowed the soldiers to rest and bathe. He ordered cattle to be slaughtered and held large meals. The soldiers also practiced throwing stones in distance contests. Xianyang challenged the Qin army for several months, but Wang Jian never came out to fight. Xianyang began to believe that Wang Jian was afraid of battle, so he gradually relaxed his guard. Then one day Wang Jian held a great feast for the army and said, Today we will go together and destroy Chu. He selected 20,000 strong soldiers as the vanguard. They shouted loudly and rushed toward the Chu army. The Chu army was defeated. Ku Ding was killed in battle. Wang Jian pursued the enemy and captured Chao Chun. The king of Chu, Fu Chu, was taken prisoner. Xianyang then established Lord Changping as the new king of Chu in the region south of the Yangtze River and continued the resistance. Wang Jian built ships and crossed the river. He surrounded Lanling. Lord Changping was killed in battle. Xianyang cried loudly toward the sky and then cut his own throat. The state of Chu was destroyed. After that, the king of Qin appointed Wang Jian's son, Wang Ben, as chief general and sent him to Liaodong to attack the king of Yan. Wang Ben captured Pyongyang and took the king of Yan, Shi, prisoner. The state of Yan was destroyed. Then Wang Ben attacked the state of Dai and captured King Jia alive. The state of Dai was destroyed as well. At this point, 5 of the 6 states had already been destroyed. Only Qi remained. The king of Qi, Jian, followed the advice of his chancellor Hu Sheng. Qi did not help Han or Wei. Each time Qin destroyed a state, the king of Qi even sent envoys to offer congratulations. The king of Qin also used gold to bribe the envoys of Qi. The king of Qi believed that Qin was friendly with him, so he did not prepare for war. Wang Ben then led his army directly toward Linzi. For 44 years, the people of Qi had not experienced war. When they saw the Qin army advancing like a mountain pressing down, no one dared to resist. Hu Sheng advised King Jian to surrender. Wang Ben conquered Qi without shedding blood. The state of Qi was destroyed. When the king of Qin heard the news of victory, he issued an order. King Jian of Qi was misled by treacherous ministers. He should have been executed. But because he had shown obedience for many years, his life will be spared. He will be moved to Gongchang and given 1 dough of grain each day. Hu Sheng was executed. King Jian lived in a small hut at the foot of the Taihang Mountains and soon died of hunger. The people of Qi were saddened and created a song called Song of the Pine and Cypress, which they sang to remember their fallen state. At this point, all 6 states had been conquered by Qin and the land was unified. The king of Qin believed that the title king was not great enough for him. He combined the ancient titles Huang and Dai and called himself Huangdi, meaning emperor. He referred to himself as Zhen, and his ministers addressed him as Your Majesty. He also abolished the system of posthumous titles and declared, I will be the first emperor. Later generations will be counted in order, the second emperor, the third emperor, and so on, continuing for 10,000 generations. Chancellor Li Si then suggested abolishing the feudal system and establishing a system of commanderies and counties to prevent future wars. Qin Shi Huang accepted the proposal and divided the empire into 36 commanderies. He also collected weapons from across the land, melted them down, and cast 12 giant bronze statues. He unified the written script and standardized weights and measures. Following the theory of the 5 elements, Qin was said to belong to the element of water, so official clothing and banners were all colored black. However, Wei Liao saw that Qin Shi Huang was becoming increasingly impulsive and restless. He sighed privately and said, Although Qin has obtained the whole world, its vital strength has already been exhausted. Can it truly last long?
That very night he left the court together with his disciple Wang Ao. Qin Shi Huang asked the ministers why Wei Liao had left. They answered that it was because he had not been granted the title of feudal lord.
The emperor then asked, "Can the old Zhou system of granting lands to feudal lords still be used?" Li Si replied, "In the Zhou dynasty, the feudal lords were granted lands, and their descendants fought one another constantly. Now that your majesty has unified the realm, commanderies and counties should be established instead. Meritorious ministers should receive generous rewards, but no land should be divided. Only in this way can the empire remain stable for a long time." Qin Shi Huang accepted this advice. He appointed Li Si as chancellor and Zhao Gao as chief palace minister. Later, he ordered the burning of books and the burial of scholars. The emperor himself traveled frequently and without restraint. He built the Great Wall to defend against the Yangnu. The common people suffered greatly. By the time of the second emperor, the tyranny became even worse. Finally, Chen Sheng, Wu Guang, and others raised their banners in rebellion and overthrew the rule of the Qin dynasty. Okay, with this, our long and sweeping story of Chronicles of the Eastern Zhou states comes to an official end. Looking back over these more than 500 years of dramatic change, we have witnessed so much. From the time when King Ping of Zhou moved the capital east to Luyi, when the royal house declined and the feudal lords began to compete for power, to the age when Duke Huan of Qi united the lords again and again, and Duke Wen of Jin honored his promise after retreating 3 times. Later came the rivalry between Wu and Yu, the bitter years of endurance and revenge, and finally the division of Jin by 3 families and the rise of the Tian clan in Qi, until the 7 powerful states stood side by side. During these centuries, countless heroes appeared on the stage of history, and countless kings and generals turned to dust. We heard about the great political talent of Guanzhong. We saw the wit and eloquence of Xianyang. We felt sorrow for the loyal tragedy of Wu Zixu, and we mourned the death of Kui Wan, who drowned himself in the river with a stone in his arms. This is a history woven together with blood and fire. It is also an epic of wisdom, strategy, and power. Now, Qin Shi Huang, Yingzheng, has swept across the 6 directions and unified the world. He abolished the feudal system, established commanderies and counties, unified the written script, and standardized the wheel tracks of carts. It seemed as if he had created a foundation that would last for 10,000 generations. He called himself the first emperor and dreamed that the empire would pass on to the second emperor, the third emperor, and so on forever. But friends, will the wheel of history truly move according to his wishes? We must remember that the price of this unification was extremely heavy. In the north, the Great Wall was built. In the south, soldiers guarded the 5 ridges. The Apang Palace was constructed. Books were burned and scholars were buried alive. The common people had just survived hundreds of years of warfare. Before they could even catch their breath, they were once again burdened with even harsher labor and strict laws. The story of Meng Zhangnu weeping at the Great Wall may be only a legend, but behind it lies the tears and suffering of countless ordinary people of that age. Qin Shi Huang believed that by collecting all the weapons of the world and casting them into 12 great bronze statues, he could sleep without worry. He believed that by burning the books kept among the people, he could keep the population ignorant. But he forgot one thing. The hearts of the people are the greatest foundation of any empire. At that moment, the Qin Empire was like a magnificent palace built on top of a volcano. On the surface, it looked glorious and powerful, but beneath it, molten lava was already boiling. So what will happen next? In the next part of our story, we will enter the short 15-year history of the Qin Empire. We will see how the king of Qin, who once lived as a hostage in Zhou and endured humiliation, later became the first emperor in his old age, increasingly suspicious and obsessed with magical immortality. We will see the night at Shakyu, when a secret conspiracy changed the course of history, when Zhao Gao forged the imperial decree, forced Prince Fusu to die, and placed Hu Hai on the throne. And we will see how a heavy rain in Dazexiang ignited the anger of the entire land, when Chen Sheng and Wu Guang raised their banners and shouted the famous words, "Are kings and nobles born to rule forever?"
After the fall of Qin, history did not immediately become peaceful. There would be the tragic farewell of Shang Yu and his beloved at Gaixia. There would be Liu Bang announcing simple laws to calm the people. There would be the long and fierce wars between Chu and Han. There would be Han Xin commanding armies in ever greater numbers, and Zhang Liang planning strategies far from the battlefield. It would become an even more dramatic age, filled with heroes and changing destinies. Although the story of Chronicles of the Eastern Zhou states has come to an end, the long river of Chinese history continues to flow. From the 100 schools of thought in the Spring and Autumn and Warring States periods, to the legalist rule of the Qin Empire, and later to the rise of Confucian learning in the Han Dynasty, the fire of civilization continued to pass forward through war and hardship, and the spirit of the people grew stronger through suffering. Thank you, my friends, for staying with us through this long journey. If you enjoyed our program, please remember to subscribe and share it with more friends.
In the next season, we will officially begin the next chapter of history, the story of the Qin Dynasty, and step into that powerful and turbulent era of the first great unified empire. See you in the next episode.
Sky in light, Nua healed the broken heart. Fuxi traced the world's design. Every age leaves stories bright. Yaya dynasty shaped bronze. Shang dynasty cast dynasty forged the great walls, and dynasty opened Silk Road winds. Three kingdoms dynasty turned war to tales. Qin dynasty led ink and mountains bloom. Sui dynasty carved the Grand Canal. Every age leaves stories bright. History and myth ignite in endless light. China's history moves in mystery through the night. Footsteps of this land enchant the world in light. Kingdoms dynasty turn war to tales. Qin dynasty led ink and mountains bloom. Sui dynasty carved the Grand Canal. Tang dynasty crowned the world with art. Song dynasty raised learning's